What's up, team? Welcome back to week 9, where today we're going to be talking about a fun little tool called implementation intentions. So now that you might have figured out what habits you want to change and why, this week gets into exactly how do you do that and how do you be specific with it. Something that is thrown around a lot is the term SMART goals. So I want to make my goals specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. That is a heck of a lot to go through when it comes to our goals, but it is very valid, right? We want our goals to be something that are attainable. And so how we do it, we want to make sure we're setting the right goalpost, but sometimes that doesn't actually get us into the action itself, the triggers for the habits, because habits operate in a loop. And so it's not just, let me tell myself I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. It's considering what are all of the things that I do in my day? Where does that exactly fit in? What habits do I replace? Do I remove? And do I add to still have a cohesive flow to my day? And a lot of times, many of the habits that we do are so automatic that it's hard to break these loops and really get the new habits in. So implementation intentions is a very smart and strategic way for you to start layering in these habits in a way that will feel much more natural with triggers that make sense for the habits themselves. So implementation intentions are a structure to how we are going to implement when and how we implement a certain behavior. The structure of the statement is if and then. If serves as the trigger or cue for the behavior, then serves as the behavior that we're going to add in. An implementation intention example is if the clock says 7 a.m., then I'm going to go put on my shoes and go out for a walk. Seems very simple, but let's talk about a couple of important notes of how to make this really work. Your if must be reliable. I think a lot of us use some version of implementation intentions in our life, but our if is like a very conditional, if I have time, if I have energy, if I have mental bandwidth. And unfortunately, as much as we would like for those things to be reliable, they're not, right? So we want to pick something that we know is going to happen. So for example, it might be if I pick up the kids and I take them home from school. Well, what other option do you have? Typically, if you are the one that is picking them up from school every single day, that is a wonderful trigger. So maybe the habit that you're struggling with is drinking enough water. So maybe that habit becomes, if I'm going to pick up the kids from school, then I'm going to fill up my water before I get in the car. And then you have more water that you drink so that you are pairing those habits together. So that habit becomes better ingrained. Now, in the then part of the statement, we still want to make sure that we are addressing the how, the when, and then what specifically is actually happening. Notice how I said I'm going to put on my shoes and go for a walk. Maybe in the park would actually make that a little bit easier, or down the cul-de-sac and back. I'm going to fill up my Stanley Cup to bring in the car with the kids. So that way it's like, I know I'm getting 40 ounces of water. The more specific we are in creating the plan, the more automatic the behavior becomes when the trigger is set. Think of it in the opposite way. If the plan is very vague, then if we have an if then comes and we're like, well, I still don't know exactly what to do. So I'm still kind of stuck and frozen. And so that's what we want to avoid happening. So it's if, then, very specific to the point where we know exactly what we should be doing, where we should be going, and how that should be playing out. A big part of this is the mental rehearsal. When you set an implementation intention, you're literally imagining it as you put it on the paper, as you type it out to your coach. You are imagining that happening and you're performing mental rehearsal that will actually make it easier for you to behave that way when the time actually comes. All in all, implementations are a wonderful tool to get specific on exactly how and make it easier for you to make sure that the habit actually gets done and changed when the triggers arise, and gives you specific scenarios to make sure that these habits happen regularly in your day and in your life. So go ahead and give an implementation intention a try this week. Let your coach know what you're actually planning on and ask them any questions that you have if you need help. That is all. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back here in the next one.